So it's a decider. The map is Interloper. It is ZVZ. It is XYFusion in the bottom right. Let's get the name bar up. I've got the production tab open. In the top left, DerpyDingo, who in the last game pulled off the proxy hatch victory. That really, really pleased me. I don't know why. I don't know why I like to comment on cheese so much. It's just fun. Right, let's get into this game then. What are we going to see? Are we going to see another proxy? Are we going to see some sort of mad rush? It's one apiece. This is the decider, you know, so pressure on this. Both players, so far, nothing. To be fair, we're not even a minute in, but, you know, I'm just, after the last game, I'm feeling a bit hyped. So, spawning pull down for XY. Spawning pull down for Derpy at roughly the same time. You can see in the production tab the progress of the buildings, so you can kind of see where we're at here. You can see that XY's got 2 gas in production, and normally as Zerg, you know, if you drop 2 gas, you're planning something, but that's not necessarily a meaning that we can read into this at this early stage of the tournament. You know, in general, you only need 1 gas in the early stages as Zerg, unless you're planning to, you know, really rush into tech like Mutas or something like that. So Derpy gets the expo done, so no sign of a proxy, and I like that. You know, the mind games. If in one game, if you win a game by something filthy like a rush, a proxy, in the next game then go totally, you know, macro heavy, go for a very economic opening, and you know, there's a pretty good chance that your opponent, having taken a beating from a nasty rush, might play a bit defensively, and you know, if you play an open economic build, then you've won. But on the flip side of that, this is a decider, and you know, probably best not to take any risks. So XY expanding here, and really this is the 3rd position, and you know, unless you're going to drop a hatch here almost straight away afterwards, I don't see a good reason to do this. It's further away from your main base. It takes your units further to get to. It's exposed from several angles. You know, there's 3 ways that units can come in at this. So your opponent can come in, have at this, and run out again before you can get to it. So I don't really like that decision. I'm not sure why he's chosen that. It could simply be he's unfamiliar with the map, and he looked at the mini-map, and those looked equidistant. But because the ramp is here, this is a much longer walk. Anyway, hatch finished up for Derpy, so you know, he has 2 hatches, he has got money in the bank, and he is building lings. No metabolic boost yet, and he does have the money to do it. Meanwhile, XYFusion, similarly, no metabolic boost just now starting, but he's got, you know, he's amassed a little bit of money in the bank. He's got some gas to spend as well, so you know, let's see what he does with that. This second hatchery needs a queen, as this does. This one is building. These workers, you know, you need to rally them. When you start the game, your hatchery nexus command center is automatically rallied to the minerals, but when you build a new one, it is not. So what you have to do is, you know, with the hatch selected, just right click on the minerals, and that means that any worker built from it will automatically start mining the minerals. You know, that it's kind of worth mentioning. You can do that with any production structure, any building that builds units. If you select it and right click at some point in the map, all of the units that it builds will go to that point once built, which is a very useful way of sort of avoiding this, where all of your units are simply hanging about next to the building that produced them. You know, so you could rally all your units to this point, for example, which is where any sort of attack is going to come from. Okay, so 3rd hatches are up for both players, and I like what I'm saying. It looks like we're going to see a bit of a macro game, a bit of a longer style. Neither player has much in the way of army. Given that we're almost 5 minutes in, you know, there's a handful of lings here for XY. I think there's quite a few in production though, so we'll see if he intends to put on a bit of pressure with that. Derpy, in the meantime, is use this queen to spit on the hatch. Derpy, that's one of the things you need to be doing, just as she has done up here. Is mutating a layer, so that layer will allow quite a number of different tech choices. Hydralisks, for example, Mutalisks are all very good units. This little band of Lings heading out. I wonder why that one's gone another way. Has he deliberately directed that, or is that just the way it pathed? Who knows? This little band of Lings are going to have a poke in and see what they can get done. I don't think they'll achieve much in terms of damage, but they will get a look around. So at this point, if I just have a look at what XYFusion knows about his opponent, this is what he knows. What Derpy knows about his opponent is that he's got a hatchery here. And nothing else. So he has no information about tech structures whatsoever. That might be about to change, though. This is a reasonable number of Lings. So 24 supply. That is a lot of Lings. Is about to come in here. But XY has got units of his own. Unfortunately, they're all kind of up here in the base. So these Lings can probably get quite a bit of damage done down here. Is he gonna get this hatch? He's focusing the hatch, and yeah, it does look like he's gonna get it. The queen's got enough for a transfuse. If he gets the transfuse off, that would be so boss. But he doesn't on this occasion. So those Lings all lost, but in exchange for a hatch, I'll take that every time. Derpy is not short of money and has 3 hatcheries to produce from, so Lings are pretty expendable. That hatchery kill is great. That's great news. So I like that a lot, the little run by. I like that. That's good. Sorry, just having a sip of my drink. Roaches. So roaches are very, very tough little units. They are considered armoured, and roaches, do well against most things, to be honest. They're just incredibly tough. They also have various sort of abilities that need researched from the roach worm. So the speed upgrade is kind of crucial. Always get that if you're going to be building roaches. This is kind of optional. Tunneling claws combined with burrow that's researched at a hatchery means that your roaches can burrow under the ground and can move whilst burrowed. What that essentially means is, from your opponent's point of view, they are cloaked while they're burrowed. Your opponent cannot see them. So, you can use that to get the roaches into your opponent's base unseen, and they simply pop up and do damage. The other sort of bit of micro you can do with them is, during battle, you can burrow the roaches so that they're not being shot at, and while burrowed they regenerate health very quickly indeed. It's probably worth mentioning, if I haven't already, that Zerg units automatically regenerate health if left to their own devices. So if I find I don't think there are any damaged units about the place. Any Zerg unit that is damaged will slowly but surely regenerate health, as will a Zerg building, so long as it is on creep. So Zerg simply heals itself. These workers, I don't know, Derpy I think has misclicked and has just moved them to over here rather than to get them mining. If we look at the money stacked up in the top right, both players have got a significant amount of cash. There's not that much happening in the production tab. So the hive is actually been researched here for XYFusion, and that's interesting. The hive will allow the highest tiers of tech for his Zerg army. Again, XY's gone for a bit of a mix of units. Now, the last time we saw Ravagers, I'm not sure that he used the Corrosive Bile at all, so hopefully this time we'll see that in use. Army-wise, Derpy doesn't really have much stuff. If I look at the units tab in the top left, he's got 18 Lings and 1 Roach. Well, that's just not very much. If we compare that to almost twice as many Lings and 8 Ravagers, at this stage, if there was a fight, XY would absolutely crush it. Neither player has researched any upgrades. So upgrades for Zerg, standard upgrades like attack upgrades and armor upgrades, come from the evolution chamber. So that's the kind of equivalent to an engineering bay or a forge. XY again going for an ultra cavern and building a spire. So You know, that's one of the things, one of the real strengths of Zerg is once you're up on several bases, the cost of these buildings is relatively negligible. So you can kind of build one of each type of tech, and since all of your units come out of hatcheries, you don't need to build lots of them to be able to produce lots of that unit. You know, so you know, by comparison, if you're a Terran and you decide I'm going to stop building Marines and I'm going to build siege tanks, well, if you want to build siege tanks 3 at a time, you need 3 factories for that. As a Zerg, though, you know, you can decide, well, I'm not going to build roaches anymore, I'm going to build flying units. You only need to build 1 spire, and then all of your hatcheries can produce flying units. So what that means is that Zerg can switch from one tech to another very quickly indeed. And Zerg, you know, it's absolutely feasible into the late game to have all of the tech trees available to you, so that you can kind of save up a bank of money, as both these players have at present. You can trade an army, so you can lose all of your stuff, but if you've got 6 hatcheries and a bunch of money in the bank and a lot of choices tech-wise, you can resupply your army within a minute and a half and be, you know, right back in your opponent's face with exactly the answer to whatever he beat you with before. Ultralisks, incredibly tough ground units. If we have a look at the Ultralisk Cavern, this thing's researching, which gives +2 armor. If you combine that with armor upgrades from the evolution chamber, these guys can end up with +5 armor. That is ridiculous amounts of armor. That means that untech Marines basically don't damage them, because they've got just so much armor, or at least do 1 damage per shot or something. And you combine that with the insane amount of health they've got, you know, 500 health, and it just makes them indestructible against pretty much anything. So at present, XY moving out with a hugely superior army. I don't think that Derpy has anything that he can do about this. There go the corrosive files. We're going to see those raining down. You need to be a little bit careful with corrosive file, because it will do splash damage on your own units. These swarm hosts are literally doing nothing. Swarm hosts need to actively be told to fire, but I don't think any of that matters, because this is GG. Surely, I mean, there's just all sorts of army for XY, and there's no sort of army for Derpy. So you know, I had high hopes for this game, and actually in the end that final engagement felt a bit one-sided. Both players did a very good job of sort of building a strong economy at home, but neither of them really got to grips with spending the money, and that's kind of highlighted by the huge amounts that they've both got in the bank at the end of this game. Well, there we have the end of that match. It's, you know, the first Zerg games that we've seen, and it turned out to be a ZVZ. We had a proxy hatch involved, so, you know, I'm happy to see that. We see that, and I like to see this, that XYFusion still building ultras, still building mutes, still building lings at home. He hasn't taken his foot off the loud pedal just because he's got an advantage, and that's absolutely superb to see. So XYFusion not afraid to experiment with this sort of tech tree, and Derpy not afraid to mix in a cheeky proxy rush build when he's a game down. So you know, this is looking good, isn't it? This is looking good, but nothing in the production tab. Surely Derpy is going to GG, and he has done. Wow, that was nuts. I think I need to go to bed. GG.